welcome back to the channel. I'm Davis and it's glad to be back after a whole week of international games and a break. So I'm glad to be back to our usual FPL updates. So basically today we're going to go through how the season has gone so far, our top players and top performers and best assets so far in every position. And then lastly, we can also go through our usual predicted AI predicted or expected points in this coming game week 12 and also in the next 5 game weeks to help us select out which best assets most of you should be going for, especially for the likes of those that still have their wildcard active and are going to use it after this international break, which is going to be the last one for a while now. For starters, as you can already see, our top three goalkeepers from game week 1 to 11 have been those three. Onana, who's selected by over 873,000 people, has the top points with 53 points at just a price of 5.1. Then obviously Matt Sells, who has been phenomenal in goal for Nottingham Forest, has also been looking good together with his defense as well. So he's been selected by around 788,000 people. He's at 50 points. And then in our top three, it's closed off by Jordan Pickford of Everton, who was still one of the top performers last season as well. I think he was the second in the FPL points last season as well. So most of us started with Everton assets at the beginning of the season. But like I always mention in FPL, it's something that needs to do with patience and also knowing when to select the right assets. So it's not all about going for the best or the expensive ones or the players, but you can also go for the lower ones, but know when to pick them. That's why you see the likes of Matt Sells and Jordan Pickford appearing here ahead of the likes of Raya, who is even much more costly. So yeah, those are top goalkeepers in the FPL from game week 1 to 11. We shall see going forward according to the predicted points, especially for the goalkeepers who we see going forward. And you don't be surprised to see some of these same people. And as we've always gone through our different series for expected points, you'll notice these three have always appeared. They're not at the top because Raya is always usually at the top, but with Arsenal's issues in defense and midfield and the red cards and the injuries, I think they were affected greatly. But I believe going forward, I think they should be able to look good. In our defense, we do have obviously the likes of Van Dijk. He's the top among the defenders with 56 points, but selected by almost 2 million players at a price of just 6.3. Still cheaper than, for example, Trent, because most of us that went for the likes of Trent obviously expected even more going forward. But that has been lacking in his game, and he did end the game week 11 with an injury. For those that had him, he actually missed out even on that clean sheet, but probably his points could have been also a bit higher than that. But yeah, we've also seen him get some substitutions out in once in a while to have in the likes of Bradley, who is, I think, some of you, one of the players some of you are thinking about, but personally I don't think I don't think it's a serious injury for Trent. So Bradley, those jumping onto the Bradley wagon, I feel like it's still too early. We need to first study the entire situation. In second place, obviously, Josko Gvardiol, and one of what has helped him the most is really his attacking threat, because as we know, Man City has not been doing well in times of clean sheets. But he's going forward. He has, I think, 3 goals. He has assists. He has really been looking very good, and he has been also within the bonus points. So his contribution to Man City has been very great. Not surprised he's making a second position. And our third position is Ola Aina. But like we talked about, even in the goalkeepers with so much sales, so Nottingham's defense altogether has been looking very, very good. He has come in, I think, with a goal at least and some assists, but more importantly, his points have come through from the clean sheets, just like his goalkeeper. So he's selected by around 1.2, but I think even the numbers increased just of recent. After he scored that goal, I think there was a high influx of players bringing him in. But those are top three defenders so far. In our midfield, it's a no-brainer. Salah has been at the top. Has been at the top. He's been very good, especially in the last years, like 3 or 4 double digit points in like the last 5 game weeks. So he has been really looking good from game week. We saw from game week 7, I think, when they play against Crystal Palace, he had 3 points. Then from then on, he has been scoring, assisting, 12 points in game week 8 when they played Chelsea, uh, 10 against Arsenal, 9 against Brighton, and then obviously the most recent game week 11 haul of 14 points against Aston Villa, and his price has been increasing. So he's continuing to look like more for those that were debating whether to have him or have Haaland, something like that. It looks like he's indeed very nailed. And we started off the season with Haaland taking the lead. They did tie at some point. I think now he's a bit ahead, but wouldn't be surprised if that pendulum keeps on changing along the way. So, like I always mentioned, even in the previous video, we do believe, and I do believe, the Man City games or its luck is about to turn very soon, and then obviously Haaland will look very good. Will look very good. He did score a hat trick, I believe, for Norway in his international game, so he does still look a threat, and it does still look like a very good potential FPL asset. Yeah, now talking about our top fixtures, our top fixtures mainly for the top four teams and how they're going, because we know all at least each and every FPL player has a player that has listed within these teams. So we do get to look at the likes of Liverpool. They play Southampton next. They play Man City in there. There's Newcastle away. There's a Merseyside derby away. Then Fulham, and then lastly Tottenham. The Liverpool fixtures, as we say, are not the best. As you can see, with the likes of Newcastle away, we saw what happened to Man City when they were away to Newcastle. Um, Man City, obviously, in there, yes, it's an Anfield, but still. So, and then obviously, there's some good fixtures. Of basically, the two good ones I can pick out is really the current game week of Southampton and maybe Everton in there. Otherwise, they're not the best because even Tottenham away can be a tricky fixture. But obviously, having someone like Salah, it's a no-brainer that he can return against Man City, he can return against Spurs away, he can return. So anytime you do know he's on penalties and he's on some of the set pieces, because even the free kicks that Trent takes sometimes is involved in there, and that can help him get an assist here and there. So it still continues to be a very good and nailed asset, I believe, going forward. Then Man City, we do see their fixtures. Tottenham is next. Tottenham tends to always give them a difficult match, but they are at home. Then they play Liverpool away. They play Nottingham, which has a very good defense. Crystal Palace, which is, I think, was one of their best fixtures in their entire run. Then they have a Manchester derby. Then lastly, Aston Villa away in game week 17. So their fixtures are not any different from the Liverpool ones. They are also in and out. They are not bad, and they are also not very good. Then we come to Chelsea, whose fixtures are looking very, very good. We did see Palmer fail to return in the last, I think, 2 or 3 game weeks because he played Liverpool, he played Arsenal in there. And one of the things we've gotten to know about him is that he tends to show up against the smaller teams. So I wouldn't be surprised if now he starts his hauling against the likes of Leicester, against the likes of Southampton, against the likes of Everton. And their fixtures, I think, among the top 4 teams that we've listed here, look, I think, the better, because even with Tottenham in there, we've seen Tottenham struggle against the likes of Ipswich. Their defense is not the best. So I still believe the Chelsea assets continue to look good. Then lastly, we talk about Arsenal. Their fixtures also look good. They're turned for the better. That's why the likes of Salah on demand. And we shall look at the expected points and get to note that the likes of Raya, the likes of Gabriel, all come back into the discussion after their difficult run of fixtures. And most importantly, I believe it's because even their players are all back. I think the team is back. I do know Trossard could have gotten a knock here and there in the international break. We are yet to assess and find out the extent of that and also other injuries during the international break. But when you do get to look at their fixtures, you believe they are, I think, tied between them and Chelsea for, I think, the better fixture run going forward. But obviously, someone that even has a much better fixture run is Brighton. I mentioned this before the international break because we did notice that, for example, in the wildcard that I did create, it had, I think, 2 Brighton assets. Joao Pedro was there. If he manages to keep himself fit, I think they're looking very good. Even Welbeck himself continues to look good, actually, as a very good FPL asset. The likes of Dunk, Verbruggen in goal. Some of those are the people that I think were appearing in most of the wildcards that we did last week. So if Dunk can be able to shake off because he's still flagged as of now, but if he can be able to shake that off, I believe the Brighton fixtures really, really look very good, and it is something that we can, I think, get to target. So we get to the expected and predicted points by AI. Like I mentioned, we do get to see the likes of Raya still at the top. He's projected to get 4.3 points in this coming game week of game week 12. And overall, in the next 5 game weeks, you do get to see that he's still at the top at about 20.1. So we get to wait and see how they do fare in the next game, in this game week. But I believe their defense should really look good going forward. Martinez is in second position. Pope is in there. Leno. We talked about Onana in the top goalkeepers, as we mentioned earlier. Then obviously Ederson and Flecken, who are also highly owned. That makes up the list of our expected ones for the goalkeepers, especially. So then we get to look at, I think we get to look at the defenders as well. Like I mentioned, still Arsenal is really at the top of it all. Timber has gained ground over his other Arsenal defenders because I think his price is also a fairly good compared, for example, to the likes of Rice. So he does also appear. They're expected to return around 4.7 this game week and 4.4 respectively, with Saliba slightly below them. We have Van Dijk, who we did see among the best defenders so far. Bradley does make an appearance because we just tried to simulate if he was to play constantly for the next 5 game weeks, but we do know that is really a doubt. I don't think anyone jumping on him right now is really justified. Then Digne, Robertson as well, and then lastly Shaw. So those make for our defenders. Then coming to our midfielders, no surprise that Salah is at the top of it all. This is projected, I think, is projected to have the highest this entire game week, as we shall see, because even Haaland is slightly below. Playing Southampton, they do, it's away though, but he's projected at 7.6 points this game week and around 31 in the next 5 games. Then we have Palmer in there. We looked at the Chelsea fixtures. We do see Madueke appearing in there. That also still goes back to the Chelsea fixtures. He did make very good performances for England as well. Bruno Fernandes, who we shall talk about when we get to my team, because he's one of those people that I did bring in. Then obviously Odegaard being back, Saka and Martinelli, because we did look at those Arsenal fixtures as well. Jumping directly straight to our forwards, no, like I mentioned. So basically, as per our predicted points for game week 12, you do get to notice that Salah is at the highest with around 7.6. Then the next in line is Haaland at 7.2. So then we have Isak, we have Watkins, we have Nicholas Jackson, who's a very good shout for those that are going for the Chelsea assets as well. Raul makes an appearance. Gapco, I believe, is not nailed, but because we do believe from the communication from Slot is that Jota should also be returning after the international window. And I believe the number 9 position for Liverpool is nailed more for Jota. So someone like Darwin gets to move out of the way. And then the number 7 position is up for grabs between Diaz and Gapco. So we wait to see how who will be nailed or who will be given the advantage going forward. But then obviously Ivan Nilsson is also in there for Bournemouth with a 5.9 projected at 20.4 in the next game weeks. So going directly to my team, like I mentioned last week, one of the quick transfers I did to get ahead of the price rises was to bring in Fernandez. It does look good. So my team, I think, is I don't expect any much change going forward. Obviously, Palmer is for monitoring. He didn't go for the international break because he had a knock. And also, Buemo has recently gotten flagged. That is also for monitoring in the next coming days. Any press conference news, anything that comes up, you'll be the first to know through here. But for now, this is how my team will be lining up. This is my final thoughts for it were pretty much mentioned in the last game, sorry, in the previous week. So we continue to monitor for only those that are flagged. My captaincy right now is still standing on Salah, as we did look at the predicted points. Thank you very much thank you, FPL responsibly, and catch you next time.